here we have a situation where the company goes out with a very strong marketing message. They ask the clients what they want, and they repeat back the marketing message, because in the case, because they had this strong message of 2,000 liters in the market, only those that wanted 2,000 liters became customers.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it becomes an echo chamber.
Right.
But the research we did found that the company was completely wrong. It was less than a quarter of the market who wanted 2,000 liters.
Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable From the Trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, Per, the Price Whisperer, is back for a second episode. Nice to have you back there, Per.
Matt, it's a pleasure to be back, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. And I hope that the audience will find some nuggets of information and value from our talk.
I know they will. We had an amazing first episode. We covered a lot of territory, but this one I thought we would do it a little differently. And I'm sure you shared some stories on the last one, but here we're going to focus just on stories and try to pull those lessons out of there related to pricing. And as we were talking right before we hit record, you said it's kind of in our DNA, right? To listen and learn from stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we think about it, when we were all cavemen, we all sat around the fire. It was not really a campfire because there wasn't really a camp. It was just a fire. But people were telling stories, and those who learned from stories, and stories in this case becomes a transfer of knowledge. And those who learned from those stories had a higher chance of surviving. So because of that, it became ingrained in our DNA to listen and learn from stories. And if you really think about it, how important stories are, the whole media and entertainment industry is all about telling stories.
True. Yeah.
Television, movies, books, it is all about telling stories. So it's so important for us as humans to learn from stories, to listen to stories. And I do a little thing when I talk to people, which is something that everybody involved in sales should try. And let's say that you're on a call with a potential customer, whether this is on Zoom or whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person, and the people you talk to is trying to wrap up. They want to go. They're probably not going to buy from you. And then you say, do you have time for a story? And they always have time for a story. Then, of course, you have to have a story. And,
yes.
and there is something else to learn from stories that I think is very important. And every company need to have a story vault. That is, because you have these salespeople and other people in the company, and they come back from talking to prospects and customers and so forth, and they bring back stories, and they use those stories when they speak to more prospects and customers, obviously, at least if they're good salespeople. But imagine that if the company has a vault of these stories where you share in between those customer-facing individuals, the stories that tells a particular or transfers a particular knowledge, or tries to convince a particular company to buy the product or service that you're selling. If you have that vault of stories, to take all those stories from everybody in the company and make it a resource that everybody can use. Not many companies have that.
Yeah, I love that idea.
But it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
it is pretty easy, and it's something that we um, all have to consider when we're out there talking to customers, to use those stories as a way of delivering our value proposition.
Yeah, I think about it now. Like, so I do most of the selling in my small little boutique agency, and but I have all the stories in my vault up here. But the fact of actually documenting those and writing those down and providing those to the team to, because I use stories all the time to sell web design development. When somebody's got a problem, this is how we solved it for this other. Let me tell you that story about that other client we solved this problem for, that type of thing. It is powerful and can reel in sales. That's for sure.
It is, yeah, and certainly if I mean, in my case, I'm doing all the selling in my company, so I have the stories up. That's my story wall, just like yours.
Yeah.
But if you're a little larger organization that have more than a single person that do the selling, but it also has to be taken to the next level, because okay, you have the story, then you have to define what does that story, when is it appropriate to use that story, when it's appropriate to use another story, and so forth. And as a salesperson, you want to be prepared for that. You want to know what story to tell before you go in and talk to a customer. Right. So,
yeah.
So that's the importance of stories.
I love it. That's like a bonus topic for this. That's great. We talk about stories more. No, I mean, my whole podcast, or the Builders, our podcast, is about stories and telling our own story and telling and yes. So speaking of stories, so you have some stories, and you just shared that you have a new book since the last time we talked.
Yeah, I do. This is it's my moniker there, the Price Whisperer.
The Price Whisperer.
But the subtitle is actually more important, and the subtitle is A Holistic Approach to Pricing Power. And that is to understand that everything you do in a company affects how you can set your prices. So what does this everything means then? Well, it means the kind of customers you're targeting, the kind of product features, functions, or benefits, or service features and functions or benefits that you promote, the marketing channels and messages that you use, the sales methodologies and the sales channels that you use, and obviously the prices themselves and the strategy of how you monetize whatever you're selling, all affects how you can set prices. And since we're going to story, what is pricing power? Well, pricing power is a term that was defined by Warren Buffett in 2010. And he was interviewed by a government agency of sort about the 2008 recession. I can't remember what the name of that government agency. But what he said, Warren Buffett, was that the main criterion for whether he should invest or not in a company is if it has pricing power. And he then continued saying that pricing power is the ability to increase prices without losing sales volume. And he continued again saying that if you have to say a prayer before you increase your prices by 0.1%, you do not have a very good business. So that's pricing power, the ability to increase prices and retain or even increase sales volume.
How does that what does that look like for a company? I mean, what's the difference between a company that has pricing power and doesn't? Like, are there key elements to that?
Well, it's everything matters.
Everything matters.
So let me. So if we talk about stories, let me.
So yeah, a couple of examples.
let me tell you a story of customer targeting and pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So we did this project for a SaaS company, and they have a business phone system in the cloud. And the research we did, we found that they had the ability to quadruple their prices. They were so underpriced, and they were so underpriced because they were uncertain about the value that they were delivering to their clients. They thought that they can go out in the market with a really low price and capture market share. Well, they were priced too low. So we said, you can quadruple your prices, and which they did, not overnight, but they inched them up roughly over 9 months. And when I then checked back with the CEO, what he told me was, there are two things happened. He said, first, our sales volume went up with 25%. Secondly, we got a completely different customer category.
All right.
We got, and he said this, we got rid of the bottom feeders, and now we have a more professional level of customers. So our customer support cost has gone down with 25%, with 80%, because your price selects your customer.
The price selects the customer.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's that's an example, a story of how important it is to target the right customers with the right price.
And I like the fact that was incremental. It's not like overnight you're just going to go triple your prices.
No,
and then you have to message that. You have to, like, how do you roll that out?
Well, I have a story on that too, and this is this company who has they have these dispensers for filtered water that you find outside grocery stores and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to us initially and said, we tried to increase our prices 7 years ago, and it backfired badly. So we had to revert. And what do you mean backfired meant that the sales volume dropped dramatically.
Right.
Now, we found that if they positioned the company differently, there were plenty of room to increase prices. And these water companies, you go to a dispenser, you put your 5-gallon jug in there, you fill it up, and you pay a little bit. And the marketing these companies do is essentially the signage on these dispensers. So over about a week, they changed the signage based on a different positioning of the company, and they also changed their prices. And as a result, during that week, they went from a $200 to a $240 million company.
Wow. Just because of how you position yourself, how you
That's right.
how you show up, how you brand yourself,
Mm-hmm.
To attract the type of customer that's going to pay more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, not only that, we just completed a second project for the same company, and they're now a $300 million company.
Wow.
So
I hope you get a good percentage of that.
Doesn't work like that.
You're a good investment.
So I'm using that story, and since we talk about stories, I'm using that story to very on point illustrate how your marketing can make a difference in how you price. Okay.
Right.
And that it's important for any company to know what marketing messages, what marketing channels, and so forth support more profitable prices than others, and also in particularly to understand how that can lead to an increase in companies' growth and profitability. And profitability is something I also want to talk about a little bit. If we think about, and in my line of work, I speak to a lot of CEOs. Every day I speak to CEOs. and profitability is something that, at least in my experience, is something that companies either take for granted, or then it doesn't seem to be very important. But of course, it is important, because every company needs to be profitable. If it's not profitable, eventually there is no company, because eventually the investors, including those founders who may have worked for free for the company for, I don't know, several years, get tired of that. They get tired of supporting the company's sort of loss-making venture, right? And eventually the company need to turn to profit. Now, some companies that we know about can be unprofitable for a very long time, because investors buy into the story of the company, such as, it took Amazon, it took them 18 years or something like that to turn into profits. Tesla took 12 years.
Yeah.
But eventually it turned into profits of some sort.
Yeah, you can't sustain that forever.
Say again, please.
Yeah. I say you can't sustain that forever. It's a strategy in the beginning to start a company, and with the idea you're not going to make profit in the first few years, but eventually you have to make.
Eventually you have to, and profit comes obviously from only three variables. It comes from the total cost of the operation. It comes from the total sales volume, and it comes from the price of whatever you sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably covered this when we spoke last time, but out of these three, price has the highest leverage on profitability. And in fact, if you look at for the average company, and I have a thought experiment that I'm calling the 1% challenge. And what that means is that if you do a thought experiment, you take these three variables and you change them 1%, what will happen to profits? Now, if you can increase your sales volume for the average company, now, no company is average, but for the average company, profitability will go up by 3.5%. That's, of course, because, yes, you increase your sales volume, but it also means that your cost goes up. So your revenue goes up, but your cost also goes up. If in that average company you can reduce your cost with 1%, profitability goes up 5.5%. But in the same company, average company, if you can increase your price with 1%, or decrease your discounting with 1%, which of course is the same thing, profitability goes up with 11.3%.
Wow.
Now, the challenge is, have you ever failed to change anything 1%? I think no.
1%.
So you go back to your company and you tell your salespeople, nope, you are not allowed to discount 15% anymore. You can only discount 10. And if you're like the average company, you have suddenly almost you increased your profitability with 50%. Now, Why is profit so good? Well, profits are really good because we are all in business because we deliver value to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't deliver value to our clients, we won't have clients. Now, profits are good because it allows us to deliver more value to more clients. We can spend more money on product development if we do products.
Yeah.
We can spend more money on service definitions if we sell services. We can spend more money on our go-to-market efforts, whether that's marketing, hiring more salespeople, setting up new locations, whatever it may be. And of course, we can even use that additional profit to hire more expensive and often better people.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a way in which we can, it's good for society.
Right.
You have more people that are employed. You have more people that you can add value to, and that's why profits are. Now, it also means that you have money to distribute to shareholders and so forth. But that should not be the only reason why you want profits, because then the company is not growing.
Right. You want to reinvest some of that into better resources, better tools, better whatever. I've told people that, I can't remember if I've told maybe even clients that like if we have to raise prices as we're doing this because we are investing in new tools or our team is growing, and but the what comes on the back of that is the fact that we're going to be able to provide a better service. We're going to do and attract or keep better clients because we continue to grow and do more for them and add more value.
And the sort of on the story part, I just read yesterday that one of the new, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the new EV makers, they sell their EV for, I think, about 100 grand. It's a fairly luxurious car, which is fine. They're not selling that many, but they're selling. The bad news is that it cost them $250,000 to build. So every car they're losing something like 150,000 on every car.
Wow.
That is not sustainable.
No. I mean, they have a strategy.
Unless you can suddenly start to charge more than 250 for the car. And
their strategy, though, is to grab market share, right? And then eventually drop the prices, I would imagine. And
I imagine that what they're trying to do is to get enough volume so that the manufacturing cost goes down.
Right.
But 100K car is not a volume car.
That's a lot.
It doesn't sell in great volumes. They need to get down to what the average car price is today, which is, I think, about 45,000 or thereabouts. But it's amazing. I mean, if I were an investor in that company, I would take my investment out.
Yeah, that's pretty risky.
Very much but there's more here on the way you monetize your value is also very important. And another story here of a company, they sell psychometric tests, and what do you use? Companies buy these psychometric tests because either when they hire somebody, they want to know the personality traits, or if they want to find somebody to promote, is that a person that is going to go continue rise in the company, or are we spending effort and so forth on the wrong people? That's why people buy these psychometric tests. And the company is successful, and their clients, companies who buy these psychometric tests, they go into the company's website, they buy a test, the potential employee or the potential what do you call it, the promotee, is that a word, would fill in the test, and the company get a result. Very simple. It's all automatic, so there's no real cost involved in taking another test. The market don't want to buy onesie-twosies of these tests. 80% of the market says, I want to buy a subscription. I want to buy a package of subscriptions where I can, my company have say 5,000 employees. So for that, I want to buy a package of 1,000 psychometrics tests per year, and I just pull them off as I want, instead of buying onesie-twosies. Right. 80% of the market. Right. So the way you monetize your product or service can make a huge difference. And not only that, the in this particular case, the convenience of having a fixed price per year means that you can put it in the budget. It's not going to change.
Right. So how did they discover that it was 80% of the market doing it this particular way, using this model?
The company discovered it by hiring us, and we did the pricing research to find out.
That's
how you do it.
Yeah.
And there is your question is quite interesting, because there is a mistake that many companies do, and that is that they listen to their customers only. You should listen to your customers, definitely, but it is the non-customers that are more important. It's the non-customers where your growth is going to come from. It's the non-customers that you are going to find ways of access, and they will, if you can access, that is where growth is going to come from. And another story of how listen to your clients will hamper a company's growth. And this is a company that sells. They make small batches of drugs for use in clinical trials. Now, I'm saying batches. I didn't know this, but when you make drugs, you kind of brew it almost like beer. How it's done technically, I don't know, but you have these vats of water and bacteria and other stuff, and in some way when this eventually is processed, you get the compounds that turns into drugs. This particular company was Metric, although it's a U.S. company. So they said that the market wants these batches to be 2,000 liters. So I don't know what that is. That's about 500 gallons or 600 gallons or something like that. So 2,000 liters is the ultimate size of these batches. And which meant that they had all their marketing, their website, their sales literature and everything talks about the benefits of 2,000 liter batches. And then they were very close to their clients. So they asked them all the time, what kind of batch size do you want? And they said 2,000 liters. So here we have a situation where the company goes out with a very strong marketing message. They ask the clients what they want, and they repeat back the marketing message, because in the case, because they had this strong message of 2,000 liters in the market, only those that wanted 2,000 liters became customers.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it becomes an echo chamber.
Right.
But the research we did found that the company was completely wrong. It was less than a quarter of the market who wanted 2,000 liters.
Wow.
So again, this company was successful selling to a small portion of the addressable market.
But the growth.
And it was sort of funny. We presented this late on a Friday. And the company is based on the East Coast in that research triangle. And as we wrapped up, I heard the CEO saying to the VP of manufacturing, or whatever his title was, it was something that's similar to that. And he said, Monday morning, 9:00, he said, I want detailed plans on how we can profitably make 500-liter batches, 1,000-liter batches, and 5,000-liter batches.
Nice. Nice.
You know?
he received the message and he's taken action. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Wow.
So,
no, it's interesting. Even when you're looking at like software and stuff, like I sell plugins. I've sold WordPress products forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nerd. And when we're thinking about pricing, we're thinking about, the different ways we can present that, like, annual, quarterly, monthly payments. And then how specifically we price those, how they compare. Like, do you save by getting the annual? And that's obviously maybe an obvious thing you do. You got a percentage you save when you get the annual. So I think, with your story and thinking about, like, even doing that, are we missing something? Is there something that we haven't, that we need to go out, or we need to get help or hire somebody or figure out a way to go out and do some research to find out, well, what is there a market?
I'll tell you how I price our services. And so what we do one of these pricing projects, if you like. And it's like I said, it's a very different kind of online market research, but it allows us to understand and accurately predict sales volume and so forth, and revenue and profits by at different prices. And a project typically takes 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the complexity. For small companies, we can do even smaller projects that takes 2-3 weeks. But the way I sell it is that we do one of these projects, and then during a year we drill down into the data. We find answers that always come us up, and we do little micro projects and so forth, just to find questions that we didn't know we needed to ask, and so forth. So in the end, we work with a client for a year, and we add value during that year.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that our fees becomes a monthly retainer, but if you add them up, it is more expensive than doing a single project.
Right.
Because we also add value during that time. But at the same time, for our client's point of view, it's great for their cash flow, because the fees are being stretched out for a long period of time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's so many different levers. Like, again, with the plugins, like we have, it's not only just the quarterly, monthly, this, what, that, or it's like how many licenses. And, do you want one? Just need to have one website? You got 5? You need 25, 500? Depending, and who are you? Are you an agency that would need 500 because they want to use this for client sites? But there's so many different levers and ways to think about that and experiment.
It is, but it's also a way a company can differentiate themselves.
Right.
So it could be, I'm thinking what you just mentioned, it could be that if you build a website, you continue with ongoing maintenance for forever. Right. And maybe you don't charge for building the website, but the ongoing maintenance is higher.
Well,
and suddenly.
Right. It's really, really, so my agency side is services. Obviously there's, that's a consideration. Like the initial project's large, and there's this, it might be split into payments, but it's a shorter time frame, so on and so forth. But yeah, you have now after that, they're going to need maintenance. So now you bring in the RSAs, the retainers, and that's where your income, you can have a nice base income too, which helps you add more value because you have, you're able to invest that into a team and all that, but it's more consistent. Cash flow is huge.
And what I'm saying is that maybe an even better way of doing it is for you to take a sort of maybe a cost hit on the initial development, and then have an ongoing retainer that is higher than just the maintenance. You see what I mean?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I think I can implement that.
But you see, suddenly you have reduced sales friction.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, the key, of course, is that you have to have a pretty watertight contract so that the client keep on paying you those higher fees for a year or 2 years or whatever the time frame is.
Yeah. But I love that though, because I mean, and that's why we talk about echo chambers. You can be your own echo chamber too, can't you? Like you think like this is the way we've always done it. Mm-hmm. This is what works. This is what our clients are doing and are happy and so on and so forth. But maybe there's another way, and that's why we need to talk to somebody like you.
That's right. And what you can do, if that's something that you think is, because you obviously know your costs. Mm. The key is to make sure that you recoup your total cost over that, plus your margin on that over that period of time. But it's like I said, it's a way of decreasing sales friction.
Yeah.
Another way that you may want to look at, and I don't know, and this is, companies need to think about that. Loyalty programs should be paid for. I'm sure that you and all of in the audience here, we are part of all the local grocery stores, local loyalty programs.
Right.
And it has zero impact on where we go and shop. We decide different stores for different reasons, but the loyalty program they gave us at no cost have no impact whatsoever. And then we have Costco. They have a loyalty program they call a membership. And because you paid for that membership, you go to Costco to get a return on investment. You may go to Costco for other reasons, but you have to look at that membership as a loyalty program.
And it all helps with cash flow for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the first time I realized is I was in the 80s. I lived in Zurich in Switzerland, and the National Railway there came up with something that they called the 50/50 card. It was a paid discount card, and they called it 50, and it was, I believe, the cost then was about 100 Swiss francs, which would be about $400 or $500 here. So it's quite a lot of money. But I made the calculation in my head that if I do 3 to 4 trips by train over a year, I will get my money back and then some. And of course, what happened, I had clients not only in and around in Switzerland, but also my main clients were a company in Geneva, the other side of Switzerland, in Munich, in Milan, and in Paris. And I stopped driving. And because I got 50% off my train tickets.
Yeah. It's a good deal.
And it's a loyalty, and this was then so successful that the German railway, copied the whole thing, and both of them still have the same card.
And them as a company, they're making money not only on the people that use it, but actually probably more on the people that never use it, right?
Yeah, like only 30% roughly of gym memberships ever show up to the gym.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's a good model.
Yeah.
For sure.
So maybe 35%. But or they show up 5 times after New Year's Eve, when they sort of promise themselves they're going to go to the gym regularly, and then they sort of phase out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they forget to cancel.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. So when I launch my $30 per month maintenance program, so this was fantastic. Do you have one last story you want to share that would be related to a good success story around somebody either raising their prices and seeing a good return on that? In like cycle, because one of the things that fascinates me, and I don't want to dig too far into this and take all day, but is the psychology of it. Is there an example of where the psychology, like moving something even a little bit, like just like $1, like going from $99 to $100, had a huge impact that you've seen?
Not that so much, but I do have another story, and this is again a company that. They're a SaaS company. They are they provide particular services to the oil and gas industry, both the people who pump and drill, and the contractors who serve the oil and gas industry. And we worked with this company roughly 10 years ago, and we discovered that they were so underpriced that we said, you can, on the average, in the first stage, increase your price with 41%. The SaaS company had, at the time, about 17,000 customers, and they paid they paid a yearly subscription fee.
Okay.
From that initial increase in price with an average 41%, we had helped the company how you message that. So, because when you increase prices, you always have to use that as an opportunity to remind your clients of the value and your unique USP, unique selling proposition. And as opposed to what the Netflix and the Spotify's and the this and that do, where you suddenly you get an email saying, we are increasing our prices.
Yeah.
As though this and that, your fee is going to be that. There's no value proposition.
Right.
It's an in between the lines is that we do this because we can. Mm-hmm. And that is not the way to do it. So this particular company, we helped them to how you message the value proposition and the reason for increasing prices and the new software they had in development and all the added value they will provide. And from the increase in price, 41%, the CEO received one angry phone call and 2 angry emails, and 0 loss in subscriptions. Right?
Wow.
Because the messaging was done
right
in a right way. And not only that, the next year prices doubled.
Wow.
Same thing, remind customers about their value and so forth. And at that point they lost maybe a dozen or so of their 17,000 customers.
Yeah.
But the point I'm going to try to make is that use those price increases as a way to continue to remind your customers of the unique value that you are providing. And this is something that so many companies forget.
Yeah.
When you have a subscription model, you have to continuously remind your customers about the value that you bring. Because otherwise, a couple of years go by and somebody say, why are we paying for this?
Right. Exactly.
And then you lost it.
Yeah.
So the company, when we worked with them, were about $12 million. They are now 180.
Wow.
Yep.
Are you charging enough for this?
No.
No, that is an incredible lesson to land on. That's really, really important. Continue to communicate your value as you raise your prices, not just not just send them a new bill for more.
Never do
that. Thanks for sharing all of the stories today, Per. This was a great idea. Actually, I'm sure you have many, many more. And I think somebody might be able to pick up some more stories if they pick up your book. You got your book laying around there. What was it called again?
Yeah, there's more stories here, and I start with a story about Picasso,
Oh,
but buy the book and read it.
Love it.
And you'll the best way to find me is either just do a Google search on the Price Whisperer, and you should get about 10 million hits. Or you can Google my name, but that's a little harder because I got a weird name to spell and so forth.
Well, it's Per, PER, SJOFR, SJOFORS.
That's right. So,
and however you pronounce that.
However you pronounce it. Is up to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Per. I hope to have you back again someday. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Thanks for your time, Matt, and thanks for the audience for listening to me.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.